All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for this evening. Today is May 28th, 2025, and our webinar is Navigating an Injury with the trail therapist, Sarah Strong. Sarah, thank you for coming on tonight.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We're stoked that you are back. You've done some webinars for us in the past, and we've got you on the Squatch calendar for a few more this summer, which is exciting.
Yeah, I am always so excited for these. You all ask fantastic questions. Conversation's really good. So I am very happy to be back.
Excellent. Well, I think it'd be helpful if maybe you do a little background on who you are. Don't mind the cat doing acrobats behind me. But yeah, fill everybody in on who you are, and then we can jump into the questions.
Great. So I'm Sarah Strong. Online, I'm known as the Trail Therapist. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and therapist here in the state of Colorado. I'm also a certified ultra running coach. I have a few runs under my belt. And so my big thing is just helping runners prioritize their mental health with their training and their big aspirations and just balancing those things and helping people learn that running and therapy are different things.
Yes, and we were so lucky to have you out just a couple weeks ago for the premiere of The Long Path, The Journey of Becoming, which was so exciting. And it was just, we had some great questions that came up during the panel Q&A for both of those screenings, which was awesome. So appreciate you coming out for that.
Yeah, it was really fun to be there. I loved every second of it.
It was great. And this is just a plug that the film is available for streaming on Friday. So on May 30th, get on the longpathfilm.com and you can download it to stream. So, okay, let's jump into this webinar. We had a bunch of questions that were submitted ahead of time by folks who have registered for this clinic. So, the first one, we had a couple that we're going to kind of group together. I'm going to read all three and then, we'll take a stab at it. So, how do you know when an injury is sidelining? And when you can work through it. So distinguishing between something where you need to stop running and something where you can keep going. The next question, kind of similar. How do you decide when you're ready for a race after knee injury? And then how do you make decisions about what kind of pain you're willing to run through and what makes you hit pause? So these are pretty similar. We're going to lump them together. But take it away, Sarah.
Yeah, those are great questions, right? And um, I find they're questions that we're often looking to other people to answer, right? So, hey, coach, can I run yet? Or hey, PT, can I run yet? Right after we've been injured or when we're feeling a niggle or something. For each of these questions, the answer really comes down to being an expert in our own body and our own selves, which is a process. We don't get to. It's a process that happens over time, and that happens with pausing and listening and paying attention to our bodies. So, in my experience, I find that many runners often are inclined to ignore their bodies. If they feel a niggle or they feel something, it's like, I'm going to push through that. And that's what like makes me an awesome runner, right? And I have learned over time through my own very extensive injury history that actually it's being able to notice those small changes and address them early on that prevents the injuries from happening. So it's actually the opposite of ignoring our pain and discomfort, and it's really tuning into the signs and signals of our body and taking them seriously when they are small. And so where that really starts is when we're not injured, which I know we're not all in that space right now to have that luxury, but you want a baseline. What does my body feel like when I wake up in the morning? What does it feel like before I run, after I run? Right. And if you're having these check ins with yourself regularly, then on a day where after a run, there's a lot of tightness in your quad, you're probably going to notice that. And if you're not pausing and checking in with yourself and you're instead really ignoring those things and trying not to feel that pain in your quad, you're more likely for that injury to get exacerbated, to not address it in the moment. So for all of these things, it really comes down to that mind-body connection that that like I said, like kind of those body checking in with yourself. So what that can look like is a body scan, kind of going head to toe and just noticing where there's tightness, where there might be some discomfort, or where there's ease, what feels really good. And just, yeah, creating some time to sit with the body, which again, I think is really something that we tend not to do. And the more often you're doing these check-ins, the more often you're asking those things with yourself, then the more information that you're going to have, and you're going to be able to sort of differentiate between, is this the kind of pain, is this discomfort that I can run through, or is this pain that I shouldn't run through? One way to think about some of these things too is like scaling. So if scaling meaning like a scale of 1 to 10. So I notice some discomfort in my knee. I say it's a 2. A 2 out of 10 is not much discomfort, I would say. So I'm going to let myself keep running. If while I'm running that goes up a lot, I'm going to stop, right? If I feel it goes up, I'm going to check in again. Was that a 2? Is that a 5 now, right? I check it as a 2. I run for a couple more minutes. I check in again. Still at a 2. Okay. Running doesn't seem to be making it much worse. Maybe I'll do this one run and see what happens, right? I've been running for a few minutes. It's worse. I'm going to stop. I'm going to walk home. So in the middle of a run, giving yourself a number, running for a few minutes, checking in again. That's an example of how you can both build mind-body connection and give yourself kind of an honest evaluation of what your pain is.
Awesome, Sarah. I'm gonna put you on the spot because I know you've been public about this. You went through a pretty big knee injury this last year. So, did you find yourself using any particular strategy that you found to be most helpful as you were working through that?
That's you. So this is a really great example because I actually was in this. This is actually, I'm really glad you asked this, because this kind of goes back to that middle question about when am I ready to race again.
Yeah,
Um, and the reason that I think it relates is because sometimes when we have the injury, our body's actually totally healed and our body is giving us all the signs and signals that like we are ready to go, but we have fear.
mm,
And so that little niggle, that's actually just a 2 out of 10. We're like, is that an 8? Or like, I know it's just a 2, but my anxiety is reacting like it's an 8, right? And so for me, I really struggled with that this past year, where I was very cautious and continued to think that I was injured, when really it was like my foot was like running again, and I was getting, and it hadn't run in a long time, and those muscles were building up, and I had normal soreness, not pain, not injury soreness, but I was really in my head about it.
totally.
And so I kept, and finally the doctor was like, you're fine. He's like, I'm going to give you these orthotics, and like, I don't want to see you for a few more months. Like, you got to run some more
Mm,
and build up muscles again in your feet. And then like, you're going to realize, and it took me getting x-rays and spending money to have that like
yeah,
reassurance. And so I just really want to normalize that sometimes it's not our body that interferes with the return to run. It's actually our brain. Our body is ready. And that fear, because I don't want to get injured again. That was awful, right? And so I want to be extra cautious. And so um, that's one where I could have been better about using those skills, because I was like going too far the other direction.
totally. I totally hear that. I know, in the past I've had a little tendonitis issue with IT band, and that is so much you have to be on top of how you're feeling when you're working back from that. And I would have the same thing too. I find like when you're just getting back into it, everything is so amplified. Like you're feeling every single little thing. So for me, what I had to start doing was like, it was helpful to run by myself the first couple times, like see how I was feeling. But then I was like, I am so in my head. I need to go with friends so we can chit chat, and I'm not like obsessing about everything that I'm feeling. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
I totally hear you.
that's exactly how it happened for me too. I was really struggling to get back into things, and I started running with friends, and that got me out of my head and just like enjoying the time on the trails. And then it was like, oh, I feel great, you know.
Totally.
was right. What do you know?
Awesome. All right, let's move on to this next one, which was a really cool, vulnerable question. How do you forgive yourself for running on an injury in the past that made your recovery even longer?
That is a fantastic question. And like Kim said, thank you for your vulnerability with that question. I think, it sounds really simple, but the thing that I just, want to say is you're a human and you wanted to get out and you wanted to get back there. And I think we can all understand that and relate to that. And believing that you did the best that you could at the time with the information that you had is important. I think offering yourself compassion for your humanity, like you're a human who got excited. And so maybe it was a mistake. Certainly, it's only a mistake now in retrospect because, like, you're still injured or whatever. Maybe at the time, it really did feel like the right thing. And yes, I just think like compassion, self compassion is the most important thing. To access that, asking yourself, like, what would I tell a friend? If you
Mm,
had a friend who, was like, oh, I know it's kind of sore, but I think it feels better. I'm going to go test it out today. And then that prolonged the injury, you would feel badly for them, right? You wouldn't be like, you're an idiot, right? You
yeah,
would say, I'm so sorry that happened. I know how badly you wanted to get back to running. I know how sad you are to have lost that again. I'm so sorry, right? And you would offer like grace and love instead of judgment. And right, you wouldn't need to forgive your friend. And so, like, that piece of like, you're asking to forgive yourself for, yeah, just for being a human. Um, so I don't know, Kim, if you
yeah.
have any other thoughts on.
Now, I'm just thinking back to a little deja vu. I feel like you've given that answer for a couple other questions we've had in the past with webinars. Like I'm thinking about in particular, the one we had about DNFs. I think
Mhm.
you were talking about this, how, having grace for yourself. And when you're really down, think about like, what would you tell a friend who's going through kind of the lows after a DNF? So I think it's really great advice.
We are so able to like um offer forgiveness and understanding to other people and like understand that people make mistakes, and we're really not great at that with ourselves. Very typically it's like, it's okay that they made a mistake, but I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better. I should have, right? And so that reframe of, well, what would you tell a friend, unfortunately, is very effective because we're so much kinder to our friends than we are to ourselves.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I had a conversation similar to this with a friend. I don't know when it was, a few weeks, months ago, but we were talking about, new runners, how it's kind of like it happens to all of us. We push too hard and then you end up with an injury. And it's kind of like this cycle that you learn. I don't want to call it a rite of passage because it's not like a like you should go get hurt so you can figure this out. But I feel like it's something that kind of it happens to a lot of people who are new to running, because you get excited and you're like, oh, I can run a little farther, a little farther. This feels really good. And then overuse injuries, it's easy for that to happen. So, we were just talking about how, like, you go through this, but it's a really big learning experience. And I know for me, it was something where it's like, well, I'm never going to let this happen again because this sucks to be sidelined.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's that side of it too, is like, it's what can you learn from it moving forward?
absolutely. Well, and I'll point out too that it's not just running. Like in every sport, the most common injury is like the itis, right? Like the tennis
Yes.
elbow, it's an overuse injury, right?
Mhm.
Runner's knee, overuse injury. Jumper's knee, overuse injury, right? Like the things that, like every sport, it's that people get excited, and like we push too hard, do too much, and then we learn. And like you're right, it is what can I learn so that next time I don't.
Totally.
And sometimes we do get injured more than once, and that's okay too. It doesn't mean like, I mean, I can look back on times when I've been injured and be like, well, I can see very clearly
Yeah,
how that happened. And like,
me too.
anybody could see that that was going to happen if I had just like paused and stepped back. And like, yeah, I learned a lot from but like, then I just got injured this last year, right? Like, it doesn't make me invincible, but the reasons for the injuries are different. My risk factors are, I'm lessening a lot of the risk factors because I have that awareness.
Totally. And I could see, part of the learning experience if I look back on, yeah, I had tendonitis for a long time before I got into heavy strength training, which kind of nipped that. But I can remember having conversations with friends, like going into a run when you're on your way back and just saying to them, like, you need to help me stop. If I'm pushing too much, I need to, kind of having these parameters of like, this is what the PT told me. Don't go above a pain scale of 4. And like, hey, friend, can you help me? Like, hold me accountable to that. I think that for me was part of that whole learning. And it's I think you'd agree. It's like it's okay to ask for help in this respect of like having a little bit of accountability in your community.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think anything that helps, and 100% just saying out loud, here's what I need to do. I know my friends and I all see the same PT, and we'll meet
Yeah.
up with each other, be like, I saw Michael today and he told me we shouldn't be, running so long yet, or whatever it is. And um, that piece of, you're totally right, holding each other accountable. And just like, I'll ask them to, like, make me finish this run, make me do the whole thing.
Yeah.
I will also tell them the same thing, like, don't let me run too hard today. Um, yeah. And I think that's like, using your resources is a good, yeah, it's good. Just resource out. Yep.
Love it. Awesome. All right. Let's bounce to the next one, which is a cool question. Let me see if I can get it on the screen. Mental strategies and ideas for women navigating perimenopause on top of injuries.
Yes. Well, I have questions for this question. I think a little bit, because I'm not 100% sure what particularly this person would like mental strategies for, because both of those categories, perimenopause and injury, can include a number of different types of challenges. Like, I will say that it's hard to know specifically, but I think kind of like a broader way to think about this is, um, how do we support our mental health when we can't run, right?
Mm,
Or when there's new stressors and new changes, and or I can't run, because maybe you could just be going through perimenopause, and still able to run, and it's still a cluster. Or you have other life changes and you're still able to run, but running is no longer doing what it used to do.
mm,
So maybe, we can take this question and kind of expand it more generally and say, okay, what are some mental strategies for when things are really challenging, and I might not be able to access running, or running's not doing what it used to do. So if we look at that question, really, this is something that I'm really passionate about. I think runners should be asking this question all the time, and should always be engaging self-care strategies outside of running, so that if running isn't working anymore, or if you lose running, these other strategies are already like rolling. You're already doing them. Um, because we can really lose running at any point. So it's dangerous to put all of your mental health eggs in any basket, not just running, but running more so, or not more so, but running also, because you can get injured, because running itself with the stress hormones and whatnot can exacerbate some of the other symptoms. It's just good to have a wide variety of things. So when we think about, and Kim, if you remind me, I can send you something after this that you can share out. But we think about like the different types of self-care that we need. And those are things like emotional self-care, so feeling a lot of feelings, physical self-care, which we all know and love is probably the favorites for most of us, the ones that come with the endorphins. But that also includes things like doctor's visits, not getting injured, sleeping enough, eating enough, right? Like taking care of your body. Um, there's psychological self-care, so like learning new things, taking classes, listening to podcasts, reading books, like stimulating your thinking, growing and learning. There's spiritual self-care, which is connecting to a community or feeling a sense of awe, feeling
Mm.
smaller and like noticing kind of your place in the world, which a lot of folks might get from running. And if you lose running, you might need to find another place for that. So I think what can be helpful is, so like I said, I will send this thing out with Kim because it's kind of too much to get into, but there are all these self-care categories that you can look at. But then there's also just that reflective question for yourself, which is what does running do for me? And what am I not getting right now? What am I missing because I can't run? And okay, is it people? Like, is running the way I see my people? Is it movement? Is it time outdoors? Is it alone time? Is it processing my thoughts? Is it all of those, right? And whatever those things that running has done or is no longer doing, right? Okay, well, how else can I fill that? So how can I process my thoughts? Okay, well, since I can't run, I'm going to start journaling, right? How can I get my social connection? Well, since I'm not running with my friends on Saturday mornings, I'm going to start seeing if they want to meet up for a coffee after the runs or something, right? And so it's not just accepting that you've lost these things from running, but really recognizing what running brings to you and then figuring out how else to fit that into your life.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm thinking about most of my friend group is in perimenopause right now. So I joke with them that uh, I'm going to benefit from all of their learning at the time. But it's been cool to see, there's more. I think perimenopause and everything is being more normalized now, and there's a
Mhm.
lot more resources that are coming out. This is a shameless plug. I just wanted to remind myself the date, August 6th, we're having another webinar with Dr. Colleen Drehos on pelvic floor health and perimenopause. So tune in for that free clinic. But I'm seeing more and more pop up there. I just saw an email from Vermont 100. Amy Rozecki is hosting a webinar on perimenopause and runners. So I think it's helpful that there are some more resources out there. Just we still got to look for it too.
Absolutely. And yeah, and I think that's a good reminder because some of the things I was talking about are like more like holistic, like taking care of yourself. But I think another kind of underlying thing, maybe in this question that the person might have meant, is just like the intense emotional
Mhm.
experiences. So the really low moments that can come with perimenopause or with being injured. So kind of like, yeah, less about how do I take care of myself and more about how do I deal with this deep sadness or maybe these emotions that are coming out of nowhere and are feeling uncontrollable, right? So first, yes, let's just normalize that. As Kim said, there's a reason that there are all of these things popping up, and it's
Yeah.
because these experiences are very common. And of course, you want to do the things like sleep, and that's harder to do, right? You try to take care of yourself and those like those physical self-care things I was talking about, and your body makes those things more challenging during perimenopause. And so I think in terms of, the best strategies are that self-compassion piece, like giving yourself that grace. How would you support a friend in that moment, right? You would not say to your friend, stop crying, get it together. What's wrong with you? You would say, I like, let me just sit here while you cry, right? Let me give you the space. I'm sorry that you're going through this, right? And so you can give that kindness to yourself. And so I think that's a big piece of these feelings. um they don't feel like us. Like, I don't talk like that. I'm not like this. I'm not snippy with people like this, whatever. And then we feel a lot of shame, right? We want to feel in control of our emotions. And then that exacerbates the impact of the emotions. So I think the very first thing is self-compassion and allowing yourself to feel the very things that you're probably like shaming yourself away from feeling. Um, and yeah, I mean, and communication with your partner is huge. Communicate, and that goes for injury too. Communication with your people, letting them know what supports you need, what you're struggling with, what you have to let go of.
Mm.
Right? I think this applies to both of those things very much. When you're injured, you can't do as much. I know that you don't believe me because I know how we're like on crutches and still like trying to do all the things, right? And so, you know, that thing that's really hard for runners to do, asking for help, being vulnerable, and communicate, like lean to your crew, right? And
Yes.
don't expect to get through these things alone.
Awesome. Well, we got a great comment here from a Sasquatter, Ann Monroe up in the Adirondacks. You can keep running after menopause. I'm
Woohoo!
64 years old. Ann is signed up for the 50 miler at Wild Goose Trail Festival, which is very exciting. So,
That is
hell
awesome.
yeah. Hell yeah, Ann. Okay, the next question is honestly probably my favorite because of how it is worded. It is such it's such a runner's question right here. So let me get this up on the screen.
I know which one this is.
Okay, so this is how to try to enjoy cross training and physical therapy. It's just funny because like that's something that would come out of my mouth. Not just like how can I enjoy it? It's like how can I try to enjoy it? So love this question.
Yeah, I like it's a low bar. Like I'm willing to try to enjoy it. No, I think that's a great question. One thing that I think it's hard about the cross training and physical therapy piece is it really can take us from that place where we run just for fun because we love it and da da da, and then now we're cross training to do physical therapy because these are have to do's, right?
Mm,
They're the things that we're like supposed to do, and if we run because we love the process, then doing these things that are like not the enjoyable process can feel really counterintuitive and like, why am I doing this? I want to do the things that I like to do, right? So one thing, I think the biggest thing is connecting it to a why. Why am I doing this, right? So maybe we run because we love it, it makes us happy. I cross train so I can run longer, right? I do physical therapy so I can run longer. Like, what is the why behind these exercises or these activities? So that's, I think, that's where I'd absolutely start. There is a reason you're doing them. There's a reason that you want to do them. Otherwise, don't. If you
yeah.
don't have a why, then by all means, right? Like, don't. But if there's a reason, connect very much to that reason. And then the other things I would like get back to basics in terms of like reward yourself. If you do your PT exercises, you get to buy new running shorts or like, whatever it is. I would literally like a sticker chart or like a checkoff chart and give yourself those little like rewards along the way, because you don't see like the benefits of clamshells like in the moment, right? And it's hard to be like, I'm so glad I did those. But if you can give yourself your own reward at the end of the week, the month, whatever, for sticking to your exercises, that could be helpful. And then cross training, I would think of it like a side quest, maybe like how
Love
to
that.
find
Side
like
quest.
my cross training. Like I'm going to try all these different things so I find the one that like lights me up, or I'm going to like learn everything about, I don't know, snowshoeing this year, and I'm going to be like, right, and like then I'm going all in, and that's going to be like my thing of the year. I'm going to learn all about it. And so I would just think of it as like, yeah, it's supposed to be fun. So explore. It's a place to be curious. It's a place to suck at something and be like, oh, I'm actually terrible at golf. I'm so glad to never do that again. I've tried it. I've learned. It was cross training, and now I continue. So I think the more that you can make it fun, the more that you can make it related to your own values and a place of like curiosity and exploration as opposed to a place of expectation, because it's when it's like the have to do's, the should do's that we really struggle to motivate.
Awesome. Love that. Great question. We weren't poking fun at it. It's
It's
just
great.
appreciate
Yeah.
the honesty in it. Okay, this one is a little bit long, so I'm going to read this question. How do you balance the fine line between pushing through as its own form of goal and fun and giving up, accepting defeat, and losing the enjoyment? I ask this coming from a place of someone who loves outdoor adventures for adventure's sake, and where adventures, parentheses, not racing, not doing something because others do, etc., is one of the ultimate satisfactions in life.
Yeah. So, how are you reading? Um, okay, so somebody who's like, I'm just trying to get out there and have fun, be out there loving it. So, how can I balance like pushing myself to achieve a goal in this environment? Or, yeah, how are you reading the question?
So I kind of take it like, so they're asking, how do you balance the fine line between pushing through um, and giving up, accepting defeat, losing the enjoyment? So I know it's a little bit, it's worded a little bit differently. I think it's kind of like asking, um, maybe how do you tell the difference or balance between like pushing through and pushing hard and then maybe compared to like going out and enjoying it for enjoyment's sake.
Yeah, I think maybe I think we go back to that why and the values piece, right? So the reasons that we all come to running or are out there running or out there racing are unique and individual and are changing. So the things that maybe like brought us there at one time might not be the same reason that we're running today. Right. And so it is a good idea at the end of every season, the beginning of the new year, like whatever works for you, to reflect on what are my values right now and how does running fit in with them, or how is running an expression of them or make space for my values. What's my why behind running, like what's it doing for me? And if that's like running is the space where I push myself, like this is
Mm,
a place where I want to find my limits and this and that, you set up goals around that. If it's I just want to be out there as long as I can, enjoying this for as many years as I can, great. That gives us a different, we're looking at things differently, we're scheduling things differently, right? Neither of those goals is worse or better than the other, but it allows us to think about how we approach the race. And you want to think about these things before you start the race, right? Because it can really help, like, even if you're setting up A goals, B goals, and C goals, you're setting them up within the framework of this overarching value or these things that I'm seeking, right? So that can really help change like how I'm evaluating the outcome of my race. If I'm like, how many volunteers can I high five today versus what's the versus my time, right? Those could be two totally different metrics, totally different ways to evaluate the race, and both are awesome, and both could be really, really meaningful for the person who chose that metric.
totally. And I think something worth mentioning as well is that we're all doing this. It could be the same race or the same goal, but for very different reasons, and that's okay. Like I think it's easy in the ultra space to get caught up with maybe like a popular opinion or popular mentality. Um, I think that's, you gotta maybe think things through when you're starting to hear people who are like, yeah, but you're doing it wrong, or that's not the way you should be doing it. I don't know. That's not groovy.
Right. Right. I think, yeah, everybody's getting different things out of it for different reasons. And um, I think it's really important to separate your reasons from your friends' reasons, right? And so looking at and I think it gets tricky, right? When we like to sign up for races with our friends and that sort of thing. Sometimes like the values that are the reason somebody is choosing a race is like not ours. And so you're right, it gets a little bit complicated. But I think yeah, the reason that your friend runs might not be the reason you run, and that's totally, totally okay. This is for you. This is for you. Like that, it's not for anybody else. It's literally for you. And so you want to get out of it, whatever it is that you want to get out of it.
Totally. That, and to be honest, that's something I need to check myself on often is like, am I projecting onto my friends on like, hey, I want you to do this thing with me because it's going to be so rad, and maybe they aren't into that type of activity, you
I'm
know?
very guilty of that myself.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
totally. Yeah, that's why I love we have a few races that are looped time format. So, to say 5K loop, you can come out 3, 6, 12 hours. As a race director, I love those types of events because you have the full spectrum of people who are towing the same starting line. Like you have people who are signing up for the 6 hour, where their goal is they're gonna do a ultra, they're gonna get a 50K done in 6 hours. Where then you have some people who are coming to hike and they're gonna get
Yep.
maybe 9 miles in the 6 hours, which is pretty cool.
Yep. Yep. Those I we have this a similar race here, and I love it. And then you see friends who are able to show up with different goals, but able to come to this a similar or to the same event together.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, we've worked through all the questions. So if you're listening live and you want to drop a comment, we can throw that up on the screen. But I was thinking it may be cool for us to chat a little bit about some of the content you've been putting out on your social that ties in to what we're doing with the Long Path film. Because this is like really your wheelhouse, and I just love. I sent you a text the other night, like, oh, the content you're putting out is so good. So specifically about the concept of crewing. So I wonder
Yeah.
if you want to talk about that because I think it really plays into everything we've discussed tonight.
Yeah. And I'm going to put the like sister post up to it tonight, which is so
Awesome.
yesterday's was what you learned from crewing, and today's is what you learned by being crewed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we've been talking a lot about how um, supporting the people in your life or being supported by people in your life is very much like the crewing and being crewed process in an ultra. And in order to be crewed, you have to ask people for help. You have to let people know that you want help. And to get the support that you need, you have to be as clear about what's going on and what you need as possible. And crew, right? Crew do not run your race for you. They don't like flatten out the course and make it really easy and take all the obstacles away. They are like there with you while you're throwing up or crying, or they're like, they can't make the pain in your foot go away. They can kind of help you strategize, but they're really just there for you while you're in the suck of it.
Mhm.
And that is really what it means to support your people, to be a good friend, or to support somebody who's going through a hard time. And so we've been talking about how there is like some fear or hesitancy to if we worry that maybe a friend is struggling, to offer support, or to ask for support. And when we really think about it in the context of crewing, it's that reminder that like to support your friend, you don't have to solve all the problems. You don't have to have
Yeah.
the answers. You don't have to like make their life easy. You sit with them in the pain of it. And so, yeah, just like I've been thinking a lot about it, and sort of like, what is it that we love so much about ultra running? And lately, I've been thinking like, is it that this is a place where we get to have those kinds of relationships that we so often deny ourselves outside of that
Wow.
racing
Yeah.
context, right?
Totally.
Like, because you hear so often about these profound relational experiences people have with their crew and each other during a race that like really doesn't happen outside of there, and it
Totally.
requires such intense vulnerability, but we love it, right? And so it's like, gosh, imagine if we allowed that kind of openness in our relationships off the course, and then like what happens, right?
Oh man, there'd be a lot more magic in the world, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think I've been screwed by people I hardly know. And like,
Yeah.
people that maybe I've never seen again, and I'm like, we'll be connected forever, and like shared something very, very meaningful. And those relationships that you have with the people you run with your trail friends, like there are opportunities to create that connection and offer that support. And like I said, I think we're sometimes scared to do it, but I just want to remind you all that you don't have to have any like skills or magic or answers. You just have to care and be present. And that's uh, like just a really phenomenal thing to offer somebody.
Yeah, well, I'll jump off of that with this question just for you to maybe expand a little bit more. But a question that came up during the Q&A for the Long Path film was something to the effect of like how can I provide support for someone who's going through a difficult time? So I think like if we let's put it in the context of tonight's topic on an injury. So do you have advice for people who like they have a friend who's sidelined, maybe a trail bestie? You run
Yeah.
together every week, and now they're sidelined. And how can you be a friend and a support to somebody who's injured?
So the number one thing is to not forget about them. I think very often it's like, well, yeah, we see each other on Saturdays for the run, and then they're not coming on Saturdays for the run, so I don't see them. And part of what's really challenging about an injury is our loss of identity. And so to feel forgotten because you can't run really compounds that loss of identity. So texting or offering a meetup that has nothing to do with running, or like the meetup after, like I kind of said, coffee after the run, making them know that they're missed and that they're that they don't have to run for you to care about them is a really important message for them to receive. I think not asking about timelines and how long it's going to take and when it's going to be better, but just like, how's it going? Not how's your foot feeling? How's your knee doing? How are you? How
Yeah.
are you doing? How are you holding up? What's been the hardest part? Um, really just giving them space to tell you how things are going.
Mm,
And um, don't tell them it's all going to be okay, or offer like promises or reassurance that you really have no knowledge about how things are going to turn out, right? It's more important to like um, let them know that it's okay that they're struggling
mm,
than it is to feel, because when you try to fix their problem, what it feels like is like, my problem's too much for you.
yeah.
This, like, you want my problem to go away, and so then they don't feel like they can come to you with the problem because your problem makes them uncomfortable. You just want to solve it. So instead you say, I can't solve this problem. I'm glad you shared it with me. I'm here with you, right? So I would resist the urge to save it, or I know the perfect PT, I know the best surgeon, they're going to fix you up in no time, right? It's just like, this is really hard, I'm so sorry. So yeah, the tendency is to want to fix, and really, um, it's like it's helping somebody be okay with the thing that's not fixable.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, here's another one from Q&A. I'm just adapting all these to our webinar tonight. But what would you say for people who are uh, injured, really struggling mentally with it? Like, what are some signs that like maybe they should get some help through therapy? Like, what are
Yep.
some of those red flags that they should be on the lookout for?
So first, I want to start by saying that an injury, especially an injury that causes you to like maybe have to pull out of a race, or is altering plans, but really an injury at all, if you're like a regular runner, is can cause an experience of grief or loss, right?
Mm,
It is a loss, and so we can expect some of those common the stages of grief have been debunked, but the things that you associate with the stages of grief, the different feelings, anger, bargaining, um, acceptance, right? So you can expect any number of those things. That's normal. So we would say, I would expect for you to want to cry a lot and to be really feeling a number of feelings, to kind of be up and down and all over the place, at least for a solid 2 weeks, and maybe even up to 6 weeks, where you're feeling like emotional, moody, irritable. I would say if it's more than 2 weeks, you're struggling to sleep, you have changes in your weight, the crying feels really uncontrollable, or it's interfering with your ability to get work done. You're isolating. You're not like people are reaching out to hang out. You're not hanging out. You're not willing to even think about other things that would be helpful. You're kind of feeling um, just like kind of like given up on things. I would say like those are signs like that that's too much to deal with on your own, you
Mm.
know? Um, and yeah, and I did say, I say up to 6 weeks, like technically an adjustment to something like an injury can take up to 6 weeks. But I would say truly, if you notice a significant shift in your mood where you really do not feel like yourself, and you feel like either angry or irritable or sad most of the day, every day, I wouldn't wait 6 weeks to get support for that. I would reach out to get support.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then just the other thing is, I would just say, but like try self care strategies first, right? Like it's like let's start with what can I do to take care of myself, and let's see if these things work. And then if those things aren't working, we want to do that next step of reaching out for professional support. But there are certainly some strategies that you can try at home first.
Awesome. And both you and I are ambassadors for the nonprofit Bigger Than the Trail. So this is a resource where you can get cost free therapy. Um, you don't have to be a runner in order to take advantage of that, but you can check it out, btt.run/support for our friends at Bigger Than the Trail. All right, Sarah, I think those are all the questions we've got here. Um, what what's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to reach out or follow along on what you're doing?
Yeah, probably Instagram at the Trail Therapist, or thetrailtherapist.com. Will both be good options.
Awesome. Very, very cool. And like I mentioned before, Sarah has been helping really spearheading the whole the programming that we're putting together for the Long Path film. So we're really excited about that. There's a bunch of community screenings that are coming up. So if you'd like to get plugged in with that, you will be set up for success. Mostly because of the amazing work Sarah has put into the resources. So it's very cool. But Sarah, this was so awesome. Thank you again for
Thank
coming on.
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you so much. It was great.
very cool. And you can check out our dates for the upcoming webinars that we have with Sarah. There's some good ones uh, on deck with her. So sasquatchtrailrunning.com/trail party. You can get all the details there. If you want to learn more about us, sasquatchtrailrunning.com. We'd love to see you out on the trails sometime soon. So until we see you again, keep